Welcome to For Detroit Dudes TV. I'm your host, Ted Belowski, and this, my friends, is episode number 6 of The Dude Show. We got a great show tonight. We're going to take a look at the Tigers season. It was a disappointing finish, and we're going to break that down, talk about what went wrong, and take a quick look at what we might expect here in the offseason. Before we jump right into it, though, I do want to say thank you again to Andy and the crew down at Paper Street Motors. If you haven't checked out episode number 5, which we posted last week, get out there and watch it. Tell us what you think. We went down to Paper Street Motors, poked around, and really wanted to continue the concept of showing you guys companies and people here in the D that are creating positive energy, creating positive opportunities, and really having an impact on the community. And Andy and his crew are definitely doing that. So tell us what you think. Tell us if you like that concept. We've got some more companies coming up that we're really excited about showing you in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. Let's jump right into the Tigers. You know, it's funny, I waited a long time to do this show because I was really upset with the way this team finished, and you know, I was going to do it actually before the season ended, and then thought, well, what the hell, we'll wait till the season's over and you know, really take a look at this thing and do an autopsy on this team, because they basically died down the stretch. They finished 81-81. They were 13 games back, and I think in their last 10 games they were 4-6, which is just pathetic. It's a horrible way to end the season, especially considering at the All-Star break they were 48-38. They were a half game out of first place. And were hot going into the break. I mean, they had won a number of games in a row, and it really kind of just teased us, you know. They went 33-43 after the All-Star break, and, you know, baseball is a stats-driven game, and I'm a pretty big stats guy. So what I did was pulled out, you know, 3 statistics from this season that I thought really, you know, highlighted why this team struggled. The first one is one-run games. You know, their record in one-run games was pitiful. If you look at all the teams that made the playoffs this year, all of them had winning records in one-run games. This team went 16-26 in one-run games. You know, if you can't win close games, there's just no way you're going to compete for division titles or make the playoffs. It's just not possible. You know, for some perspective, the Twins, who ended up winning the division, were 31-23 in one-run games. You know, they figured out a way to win those close games. The Tigers, on the other hand, just did not, and that's been a theme with them these last couple of years. You know, they tank in the second half of the season, and they struggle in close games. The 2 other stats I want to look at are their home record and their road record. It's actually a tale of two seasons, really. At home, they were really, really good. They were 52-29 at home, which 64% winning percentage, and actually tied for the second best in the American League. An outstanding season at Comerica Park. On the road, they were actually the exact flip side of that. They were 29-52, which is a 36% winning percentage, and tied for second worst in the American League. You know, winning 29 games on the road is just unacceptable. Those 2 stats, you know, one-run games and winning on the road, are what great teams do. I mean, they dominate in close games and they win on the road. If you can't win on the road in Major League Baseball, you're just not going to compete for the playoffs. And again, the Tigers are perfect examples of that year in and year out. They struggle with those 2 major statistical categories. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, the season sucked. It's a terrible way to finish, but there were some really bright spots, and I want to touch on those real quick. I mean, Miguel Cabrera, I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's clean and sober this year. The guy put up unbelievable numbers. If he doesn't win the MVP, it's a crime. You know, there's a chance he probably won't because of the Tigers' slide here in the second half, but he single-handedly carried this team for most of the season. He batted .328, 38 home runs, 126 RBIs, 111 runs scored, and he had 45 doubles. So those numbers speak for themselves, and hopefully, you know, the voters will give Miggy his due. That we're going to find that out here in the next couple of weeks when they vote on the MVP. Austin Jackson, another really, really bright spot for this team. Came over in the Curtis Granderson trade. Was, you know, a little bit of an iffy trade initially that Dombrowski made. A lot of people liked Granderson and thought, well, you know, we're giving him up. We're getting this unproven rookie in return. But Austin Jackson stepped up. He batted .293 this year, 4 home runs, 41 RBIs, scored 103 runs, had 27 stolen bases, 34 doubles, and 10 triples. That's a pretty damn good season offensively, not to mention the fact that he was phenomenal in center field. I don't think anybody's going to forget the catch he made in Galarraga's perfect game, where he ran about, it seemed like 100 yards to make the catch. You know, he actually made 2 catches in that game that were outstanding, and he did that on a regular basis this season. So great defensively, and really a surprise from him. And then the other bright spot I want to mention is actually 2 guys. It's Brennan Bosch and Ryan Rayburn. It's kind of a tale of 2 seasons for those guys. Bosch was tearing it up in the first half of the season, just knocking the cover off the ball, and then it seemed like pitchers kind of figured out that he can't hit off speed pitches, and they really started exposing that hole in his swing. So hopefully he can work on that in the offseason and over the winter. And the guy's got great potential to be a left-handed power hitter for a long, long time in this lineup. And then Rayburn didn't get to play much in the first half of the season, but in the second half just tore the cover off the ball. And if you look at his last 2 years combined, he had 632 at-bats, 180 hits, 36 doubles, 31 home runs, 107 RBIs, and 98 runs scored, which is a phenomenal season when you combine the games and the plate appearances he's had the last 2 years. So I think he's earned himself a starting spot for sure. On the pitching side of things, I mean, Verlander was unbelievable this year. Quiet, but unbelievable. He went 18-9, 3.37 ERA with 219 Ks and just over 224 innings pitched. And while I don't think he's going to win the Cy Young, those numbers are certainly Cy Young caliber. And the guy proved once again that he's an ace. And when he's on and he's got his filthy stuff, he's unhittable. Max Scherzer, great surprise out of him. His record wasn't that great, 12-11. He didn't get a lot of run support, but he was had stretches here in the second half where he was absolutely dominant. Papa Grande, another guy on the pitching staff you have to mention as a bright spot. He had a phenomenal first half of the season. Unfortunately, got hurt here in the second half, but great season out of him. There's a lot of disappointments on an individual player basis. I'm not going to go through all these, but Jared Laird comes to mind. It's just a horrible season. Batted .207 at the plate. He's gone, I'd have to imagine. I'd be shocked if they bring him back. Carlos Guillen's a guy who just can't seem to stay healthy. He had a really disappointing season for us. And then on the pitching side, I think you got Porcello, struggled for, really 3/4 of the season. Actually got sent down to AAA. But towards the end of the year here, started to pitch pretty well, and I'm hoping that, he can turn things around for next season and kind of get back to the way he was last year. And then Galarraga's a guy who very disappointed with. Outside of that perfect game, the guy really pitched horribly. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's a major league caliber, everyday starting pitcher, which is crazy for me, to sit here and say that a guy who threw a perfect game isn't a major league ready pitcher. But I think the fact is he's just not. He's struggled his entire career, and outside of that one game this year, really didn't do much. Looking ahead to next season, and this offseason, I mean, I think this is the biggest offseason I can remember in a long time for this team because they've got some significant holes. Offensively, you've got second base and catcher, I think, wide open. They may go free agent route on both of those. Shortstop, it sounds like Johnny Peralta may be coming back, but you never know. They may go free agent route there. And on the pitching side, Bonnerman's probably gone. Most likely gone, it sounds like. But then you've got guys like Ryan Perry. What do you do with that guy? He's got tons of potential, tons of upside as a young guy, and it seemed like he was either dominant this year or he gave up a home run every time he came into the game. So, question mark there. And then Zumaya obviously is a question mark every year. Guy can't seem to stay healthy, so we'll see if he can bounce back next season as well. But, really, again, to wrap it up, I mean, just a disappointing season. Jim Leland, I think, is a question mark as well. I know he's going to be back next year and his whole staff's going to be back, but I've been a big Jim fan my whole this whole time that he's been here in Detroit, but I'm starting to really doubt this guy. At some point this team failing to get it done in the second half of every single season that he's been here has got to fall on his lap eventually. I think he's a great manager, but I'm not sure he's the right guy for this team anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if after next season Jimmy's gone and we're looking for a new manager. They got a lot of money to spend this offseason. They've got a lot of holes, so I don't think we're going to see them really go out and make a huge splash in free agency and sign any big-name guys. But I think there's enough quality guys out there that they can plug in to some of these holes they have and really compete again next year. We're going to do a show later on here over the winter once kind of free agency and stuff starts to play out, and we'll have a little bit better idea of what this team's going to look like heading into the spring. So stay tuned for that. We've got some more great shows coming up. Like I mentioned, we've got some more companies that we want to show you guys that are doing great things here in the D. That's something we're really excited about. We got a big weekend coming up in sports. You got Michigan State football game. I guess that's a big game. And there's a lot of events coming up around town as well that we're going to highlight on the website. Get to the website, check it out. We've got a lot of posts going up there. If you haven't joined our weekly newsletter, you can do that on our homepage or on the Contact Us page. We send out a weekly newsletter to members, and there's some content that we don't post on the website that we do post there in the weekly newsletter. So make sure you sign up for that. Tell your friends about us. Tell us what you think of the show. Do you think I suck? Do you think the show sucks? Do you like me? Do you like the show? Do you like the topics that we're covering? I'm going to keep harping on this because we want to hear from you guys. Positive feedback, negative feedback, whatever feedback you have, we need, because that's the only way we're going to get better. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time on The Dude Show.